Hello and welcome to another episode of Set Musings. So, today's set is Throne of Eldraine. We're getting there, we're getting up to date. So yeah, we've got, after this, 6 other episodes and then we've caught up with ourselves. One thing about this series that's been really interesting is this sort of retrospective look historically from the early days of what you would call, I suppose, designed blocks has revealed this evolution surrounding the sort of development of alternate card frames and alternate artwork. And, you know, slowly, particularly in the recent sets we've looked at, we've seen the sort of precursors to where we are now coming about. And it turns up, I think, really strongly in this set, because in a moment you'll see within this set, so we have 269 cards in the set, which is 101 commons, 80 uncommons, 53 rares, 15 mythic rares and 20 basic lands. We have things like the Buy a Box promo, which we've seen before, a bundle promo. The Planeswalker decks are still kicking around, although we're just down to 10 exclusive cards, because it isn't like the core set where we've got 5 decks. There's only a couple of decks here. There's also cards connected with Brawl, which was a new format at the time that Wizards were experimenting with. So there's 20 of those. But also, where I'm going with this is there were 96 alternate card frames. And I know, again, we've seen a few of these before, but you can definitely see these getting closer and closer to where we are now with alternate card frames. In terms of themes and mechanics in the set, we've got adventure, we've got food, we've got knights and non-humans, and the keyword ability word to look out for is adamant in here. I'm going to be slicing and dicing this in the usual way, so we'll look at various things to do with the balance of multiple colours versus monocoloured cards versus cards which have no colours at all. And then looking out for the usual things like the various cycles, including cycles related to archetypes, you know, draft indicator type things. Now, if you haven't noticed already, purely from the artwork, you can get a feel for the overall aesthetic theme of the deck. So we have a top-down design set, Arthurian Legends of Camelot on one side and Grimm's Fairy Tales on the others. And then we've got, obviously blended into the mix, just general European fairy tale stuff from a number of different sources. And we also have my favourite basic land artwork. So I'm going to scroll through here, and this is what I'm talking about. So you can see here, in terms of the, the alternate art card frames, where things had been heading. And I think this is when I was still opening packs. Booster packs. It was a set where that became really apparent. When you opened the packs and you saw the artwork, it was quite different. And again, like I said, we've seen alternate artwork before, but there's something about opening the packs from this set where that, became really obvious. And I suppose I'm thinking of an era where, was that sort of around the period of Future Sight, where I got the same sort of feel when I was opening packs. But you can see some variants here. We've got these, notice with the numbering scheme here what's going on. I'll just go back and compare it to the other ones, but yeah, there's a lot of alternate artwork, frames and other stuff here. So you can see if you look at here that there's the regular ones and they cap off at this one. And if you want to see them clustered, so we've got 3 borderless planeswalkers, 30 showcase cards. Showcase wasn't a new thing, I don't think, in that we'd seen it before. But yeah, it was a slow motion into where we are now. Oh no, they were first introduced in, so the concept of the showcase card specifically was introduced in this set. I was probably thinking of similarities between that and other alternate artwork. I'm just trying to, masterpieces. That was what I was trying to think of. So we had masterpieces, and which had that alternate artwork and had artwork that was specifically alternate and thematically to the set, in addition to them being obviously reprints of certain sought after cards. Whereas here they've taken that concept of the alternate art and applied it to cards within the set. There's our Planeswalker cards, and there's the Brawl deck stuff as well. So yeah, a lot of cards outside of booster sets. And there's some extended art cards as well. So maybe a bit easier to see the differences when it's clustered like this. It looks a little bit odd with this. It almost looks like a misprinting, on some of these. I don't know at this stage whether they perfected the look, but it looks a little bit strange. It's got that sort of, I don't know, merge is the wrong word, morphing, where you see morphed artwork. It looks a little bit like that. So 11 cards are reprints, and you can see how there's been adjustments on these cards to the artwork to reflect the theme of the set. And then that means we've got 271 cards that are not reprints, and that would also include a number of the other different things as well. Let me just see here if I change that. Yes, I'm not sure here. So if we do all prints, that's 367. Yeah. So 271. And that would just be, that's the number of individual instances of a particular card. Not individual, sorry. The number of cards where multiple instances would count as a single card. Okay, 24 cards that, as far as their colour identity is concerned, and their colour are completely colourless. No cards where there might be, in the casting cost, it might not have a colour in it, but there might be a colour in an activation cost. There's no cards in the set that fit that category. We've got 203 cards which are totally monocoloured. So there's nothing in the rules text which is a different colour from the casting cost, or would take it into a different colour identity. And we have a card here where, this is interesting, so this is Kenrith. So with Kenrith, it's white to cast, but it's Wooburg in the rules text. There's lots of activations here, one for each colour. So we have a Wooburg General, so 5 colour identity card. And we have a whole load, we've got 35 2-colour cards, and these form various cycles in the set, which we'll get back to. We've also got 4 cards here, which are 3-colour cards as well. It's interesting to see that. So let's have a look and see what creatures we've got cropping up in white. So there's 39 white creatures in the set. I'll come on to this in a moment. You notice here we have this adventure here, as it was called, where creatures could go on an adventure. So lots of humans, fairies, griffins. Yeah, I suppose we're going to see fairy tale, Arthurian, specific creatures maybe. And there's probably nods in here to like Lorwyn era creatures as well. Hybrid wise, you got human knights. A lot of knights in the set, as I think I've already said. So fairies in blue. We've got a construct, merfolk. You can see, no doubt we'll be taking a look at the legendary creatures. So knight legendary creatures, probably. $35 in black. What was the count in blue? I forgot to mention that. So 32 cards which have creature cards that have blue in them. 35 in black. It's like human warlock. More knights. Cat. Fairies, trolls. Zombies. Not seeing vampires here, I don't think. Got a spirit there. So in red, more knights, Wolverine, there's a wall there, giants. Yep, lots more human knights. Peasants, ogres, a dragon, some goblins and dwarves. But you're probably noticing a number of legends at uncommon as well. So in green, giants, Ophi, I think that's how you pronounce that. Human peasants. Got a green cat. Beasts. And the elves. Interesting to see the hybrid mana as well. Okay, big stuff. 11 cards which have a mana value greater than 6. Just going to put this in order because I'm curious about something. So if I do mana value. Okay, so we're starting off at the 7s. How high up does it go? 12. Cauldron of Eternity. So these are venture spells in here. So you could go on an adventure. So when you came to cast these adventure cards, you had a choice really. You could choose to go on an adventure, and you can see there's the casting cost for going on the adventure. So you go on the adventure, and in here a sort of description of what that entails. You can see we've got obviously instants and sorceries here. I've also included cards which reference adventure in some way, in addition to those cards which have adventure on them. And so you can see with the reminder text where it can fit in there. We have this thing that happens, the adventure. So this one you may discard a card. If you do, then draw a card. And we have this reminder that says, then you exile this card. You may cast the creature later from exile. So the adventure comes first, if you choose to do it, and then you, at a later date, it gets exiled and you can cast the creature from exile later. So we also have food in the set. So you can see here certain cards have the ability to produce this food token. So you can create a food token. There's one here that's also stapled to adamant as well, which we'll get onto in a moment. And there's also cards that care about food in some way, but may not necessarily generate food tokens. But you can see the majority of these look like they generate food tokens, and food tokens they're artifacts with 2 tap. Sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. Now we've seen tokens like that for mana generation, so it's interesting to see them for life gain. So we have 46 knights in the set. And just scrolling down, you can see predominantly they're human knights. We have a zombie and a spirit though. And as we go through the different colours, so we got ogres and goblin knights and dwarves in red. I was just curious if red was the one where there was the most like non-human knights. And then obviously with the multicoloured stuff, we've got various sort of combinations thereof. And then what I also did was I did a little search to find all the non-human creatures. So we've got the knights, non-humans. I'll switch this in a moment and then just get it to find humans, which will also include knights, but I wanted to look at non-humans first. So 101 cards that don't have the human type in them. If we do this, then there's 61 cards which have human in them. And you can see, as I've said, some of those are knights. Oh. The other thing, while we're on the subject, is in the Oracle text, it did also reference non-humans. So there are 11 cards which reference non-humans. There's adamant. So with adamant, you can see there's this 3 thing going on. So it says if at least 3, and then a particular colour of mana, so if at least 3 blue mana was spent to cast this spell for Vantress Paladin. Vantress Paladin enters the battlefield with +1/+1 counter on it. So the check, the templating for the check, it is the same on the card, except for, obviously, it references the relevant colour of mana, and then what you get as a result of that check, that condition, is different on different cards. I was curious if there's any cards that don't have adamant but reference adamant, but I don't see it. We've got, moving on to cycles, we've got 5 of these cycles of lands, and these, I believe, well, in the Wikipedia article they're referred to as common lands of the wild. So 5 common monocolour lands, each one has a basic land type and only enters untapped if you control at least 3 other, notice 3 again, 3 other lands of that type. So we've got Dwarven Mine, Gingerbread Cabin, Idyllic Grange, Mystic Sanctuary and Witch's Cottage. They all generate mana of the appropriate colour. There's that tap thing. But then you've got also, they have some sort of like utility as well, beyond just generating mana. Then we have a cycle of 5 paladins, so they're 5 common knights with adamant. Each gets +1/+1 counter if the adamant cost is paid, and they're at common. Then we have 5 of this coloured equipment, so 5 common equipment that have coloured mana costs but generic equip costs. Another cycle here of Sirs, 5 uncommon legendary human knights. So I suspect when we come to get to legendary section, because of the presence of uncommon stuff, we're going to see a lot more legendaries in the set than usual. And legendaries are uncommon aren't a new thing, they've been around for a long while, but it's something that's is used sparingly when you look at sets alongside sets. And there's been certain key sets in Magic's history, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, where they've printed legendaries or legendary creatures at the lower rarities. We've got a cycle of common adamant spells, 5 common instants and sorceries with adamant on them. We have another cycle of 5 uncommons. These are 5 uncommon adamant spells. Again, instants and sorceries. 5 colour hoses, so these are uncommon and they get better when played against cards of the same colour. I got that around the best way to express it. Let me just... Blue spell. So yeah, it's interesting hosing going on here. So it's not... Yeah, the template's not quite so straightforward. So you can see these two are very similar. This one is pro-white, has protection from white. And these ones reference like being a card being non-black or non-red. So it's all done in slightly different ways on the cards, how that is done. Castles of the Realm, so 5 rare lands, 1 for each court. Each taps 1 mana of a given colour, has an activated ability and enters tapped unless you control a land of that basic land type. Yet another cycle. So these are legendary leaders. 5 rare. That is 5 rare legendary creatures, 1 for each court. Each requires 3 of a colour mana to cast and have an ability that cares about cards of that colour. Rare adventurers, so 5 rare creatures that have adventures. Pretty simple. And then we've got this cycle of mythics, so 5 mythic legendary coloured artefacts. 1 for each court, each one has a cost reduction effect. Okay, draft signpost cards. So it's interesting how this was done because there were actually 2 layers to this. So there were 10 uncommon gold spells, but each were a signpost for draft archetype, so they're all 2 coloured. But additionally there were 10 uncommon hybrid spells, each costing 4 hybrid mana. And the hybrid spells also have synergy with their respective signpost cards. So sort of double level. So you've got the regular signpost cards, which are the regular 2 colour ones, and then these second set, if you like, which are the hybrid spells, which have synergies with those archetypes. So the way I've got it here, you can sort of see, you know, one of each in each of the colours. So the hybrid, the two colour hybrid, the regular 2 colour. So white blue, blue black, black red, red green, green white, and then we've got so we're starting off with the allied and then the enemy. White black, blue red, black green, red white, and then green blue. But that's sorted by colour. It'd be interesting to see if I sort it by, say, set number. How does that look? Yeah, it's always interesting how they all organise the set numbering. So there's 10 gold rares, 10 powerful rare or mythic gold spells, and you can see we've got one for each of the 2 colour combinations there. And card type wise, it's all over the map. We've got legendary planeswalkers, we've got enchantments, we've got creatures, sorceries. Yeah, so bit of variance there. A vertical cycle, giants with adventure. So mythic, rare, and then uncommon. Pairs, realm cloaked giant and brazen borrower. So we have these sort of 2 contrasting mythic rare creatures with adventure. "22 mythics in the set. Basic lands. Wow, that's lovely. Those are really nice. 15 non-basics. So, based on what you've seen already, what have we got going on here? So you can probably spot where these are coming from. So we've got the 2 cycles we've already spoken about. So that's the cycle of rares, the castles, the cycle of the uncommons, the cycle of common lands, which were the lands of the wild. The other thing I didn't mention at the time, I don't think at the time when we just first saw these, notice as well they specifically reference the land type as well there. But then the remaining 5, we've got 2 from the Planeswalker decks and then 3 others. We have a tournament grounds, we have an actual command tower in the deck, in the set, and we have a fabled passage. But again, notice the command tower, according to this, didn't appear in the boosters. So I think we know what particular deck, supplemental deck, these would have appeared in. 5 Planeswalkers. So mono red, blue red, black green, green blue, and green blue again. Notice as well, so these ones here are from the Planeswalker decks. The other ones are from boosters. 24 legendaries that aren't Planeswalkers. So there's the Wooburg one. So we've got 3 mono white, 4 Oh yeah, this includes, there is a legendary artifact here. So in terms of the creature, oh, there's a legendary artifact there as well. Oh yeah, because of course there was a cycle of legendary artifacts. Okay. And then we've got some multiple coloured ones. Interesting here. What's going on with the colour combinations? So white, blue, black. So that's a shard. Black, red, green. It's a shard. Green, white, blue is a shard. And red, white. And that is... So I'm having to think on my feet here. Green, white, blue is a shard. That's a wedge, isn't it? Red, white, black. Yeah, because it's like enemy colours either side. Yeah. So 3 shards and a wedge, and then a 2 colour. $30 cards with adventure on it. I just wanted to highlight these again because these were effectively, like a creature, but they had the adventure stapled to them. And that excludes, so that's of a type adventure rather than the ones we looked at earlier were a mixture of adventure and things that cared about adventure. So there's 30 cards that specifically have a type of adventure somewhere on them. And then 132 cards which are creatures, but additionally they don't have adventure on them. We have 13 enchantments in the set. It looks like they're in all of the mono colours, at least one, and then a few of the 2 colours. We've got 7 auras, and do they all enchant creatures? Yeah. So I'm always on the lookout for the green and the black ones. Sometimes they enchant a land for various reasons. "17 artifact creatures." It's interesting. Here there's no, it's not spread across all colours. So we got a couple in blue, 1 in red, 1 in hybrid white, blue, and then we've got a number of these which are not coloured artefacts. It's interesting, scarecrows making an appearance. It's a scarecrow knight. Gingerbread theme. 8 pieces of equipment. I don't know. In some ways, with a night theme, I would have expected more. Maybe. You can see quite a number of those. There is no... They're all equipment with at least 1 colour in the casting cost. Oh, there's a legendary artifact equipment as well. And then we got 20 just regular, well, apart from the legendaries here, but artifacts. I did have vehicles in here. But you can again see thematically what theme there's a nod to here. I've got Arcane Signet in here. Was this the first set it was printed in? I think that was the case. It wasn't prior to that I don't think it had been printed outside of there, no. I think the price on these have come down a bit since they were first printed, because as it's been reprinted. So instance here, 29, and I've filtered out the adventure cards, which would have come up. And you can see here's adamant. What are we looking for thematically here, really? Those are these ones we've seen earlier. Our damage stuff in red. I just missed it there. I was just looking to see. Oh yeah, we got interesting removal. Thematic removal, which is always fun to see in a top-down set. Okay. There's our flying targeted damage spell in green there. Oh, graveyard stuff. What about our 2-colour stuff? I'm always curious to see if they got some sort of white-black removal. Interesting blue-black removal there. There's our green modal spell. Card draw in red. So how does that compare to sorcery speed stuff? So 23. Do we have a sorcery speed mass removal here? Again, very heavily thematic. 3 little pigs. Okay, back to the full set. So yeah, this gives you a sort of better idea of the set in totality. So 399 cards total. That's everything that was associated with the set. That would be cards in the boosters, the buy box promos, the bundle, the Planeswalker decks, the Brawl decks, those sort of things, and the alternative cards. And there was actually 269 of those were just the boosters. So it's interesting, we're seeing the chasm, if you like, between what's in regular draft boosters and what's in supplemental products expanding over time. So price-wise, most expensive card stroke printing is this, the Great Henge, $84, followed by the regular printing of the Great Henge. Okay, it's 23. We're seeing a big drop actually there. Brazen Borrower. So we're probably going to see a mixed bag here of regular printings and then alternate art work. Yeah, look at the different promos as well. Yeah, so big difference there between the booster version and this one here. Still at $20. See when we drop to 10. Questing Beast. There's a regular Oko. Emberclave again, big difference between the two printings. Rankle. And then the expanded artwork. Print of Throne of Eldraine. Castle Lochthwain, should I say. Yeah, $10 difference between those two printings. And then $13 for Corvold. Oh, we're holding around 11 here. Down to 10. Yeah. And then we've dropped just below $10. So yeah, interesting there, the price on the Great Henge. The spell costs X to less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Tap, add 2 green, you gain 2 life. Whenever a non-token creature is about to fill on your green, put on one card. Okay. Nice. Card drawing green. 7 and 2 green. Wow. So, EDH ranking side of things. Here is the stuff that isn't reprints. So, Arcane Signet bubbles to the top, and then we've got a mixture of various things here. Looks like Mythic Sanctuaries bubbled above everything else. Well, we can see the castles in there as well, and the rest of those. Common lands. So yeah, Command Tower was in the set but wasn't in the boosters. So yeah, that's bubbled up. Opt, Return to Nature, Thornwood Falls. If we switch to the two together, yeah. So reprint, new card. And then here also got the different versions of artwork. That's a nice Fabled Passage artwork. And then just legendaries. Sir Conrad the Grim. Bubbles to the top. So, I'm sure you're curious as to what I've picked. So, I suppose whenever I think about which one to choose, lots of different things go through my head. So, I do look at what's the most popular commander on EDH Rec. And if it's something interesting that I haven't really tried before, then I'll probably go for that. I also look to see if there's any commander which leverages, or multiple commanders that leverage particular set mechanics or themes. So, what was it, Adamant here and Adventure, those sort of things. That's another consideration. Also, you know, I get drawn to multicoloured cards sometimes where they're one of a few in a set, or like a Wooburg commander with interesting utility. But what I ended up with is actually Grum Gully, and the reason why is when I think I opened the packs originally, that was the one that I noticed most. I might have even pulled multiple copies, I'm not sure, but because it was uncommon. And also, I mentioned about themes in the set. There was a non-human theme in this set, so I thought, well, let's try this out. So each other non-human creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter. So I was really curious as to where the EDHREC algorithm that's in Architect would take me in a red-green, like non-human deck with counters. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. But yeah, tons of things to choose from in here, because of course we had the lower rarity knights. So, you know, there's certain interesting like mono-colour decks you can play around with as a result of this. And of course you had mono-colour at the higher rarities. So yeah, sport for choice with this one. Could have gone anywhere. So let's just consider the set itself. So a number of different things around this set. We've got the actual draft boosters. We've got brawl decks. We do have planeswalker decks in here. So interesting to see sort of two sets of precons, 2 planeswalker decks and 4 brawl decks. And you can see by the numbering that's why the 3 colours, we saw those 3 colour cards, is they're part of the brawl deck and not in the boosters. And here it's a little easier to see. So yeah, there's our wedges. Sorry, I can't even get that right. We've got our shards where the colours are alongside one another, and then we have the wedge. So the allied colours of black and red, and then their corresponding enemy colour. So, first up, Planeswalker decks. So we've got Rowan, Fearless Spark Mage, which is a legendary Planeswalker, not surprisingly. So we've got a Mythic in the deck, a rare, and then these 2 additional rares. These are exclusive, these aren't. You can see those are from the set, they're from the booster packs. So 5 exclusive cards in this deck, and then 5 in this one. I go the Trickster. There's our Mythic, there's our rare, and then our 2 rares that are reprints. Our mana fixing comes courtesy of this particular cycle, which is the one that enters the battlefield tap, but you gain 1 life. And that's it in terms of land for fixing mana. In terms of colour fixing elsewhere, I'm not sure whether anything's got anything stapled to it. And then these 4 brawl decks. So these were specifically for this brawl format. 60 card decks. So throughout standard, from Guilds of Ravnica all the way through to Throne of Eldraine. 20 unique cards not found in draft boosters, but they can still be found in collector's boosters. Each deck has 7 of them, 4 cards unique to that deck, 1 shared one card shared with one brawl deck and 2 cards shared with another brawl deck. Yeah, I forgot to mention actually in this set, so there was a test run for Ravnica Allegiance, and this was the set, I suppose, where they formally introduced collector boosters as a regular feature for standard sets. And there were some other things as well going on with Deluxe Collection as well. So yeah, you can see this is like the tipping point for variation products. I'm not going to go into the Brawl format specifically at this point, but yeah, first introduction of this. Not sure where. I have no clue what the status of Brawl is currently. There is an article on MTG Wiki if you want to know more about it. It looks like it's a standard legal format. Oh, it's a variant of, yeah, I did know it was a Highlander format. It's like singleton format. So 60 card deck, standard legal. I suppose it's just a good way of getting people to buy new cards. Really. Okay, so Chilean Teller of Tales. Oh wow, look at that land base. Interesting. Okay. Fairy Schemes. Knight's Charge. And Savage Hunger. Yeah, there's our command tower. And there's our Arcane Signet as well. Did they all have Arcane Signets in? I'm assuming they did. Yeah, I see Heraldic Banner in here as well in one of the decks. Cool. So here's the seed for the upcoming Commander Durdle episode, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in the episode, but just so you can see, we've got Grumgully the Generous. Looking forward to that. And no, nothing to really add there. I was just I always do this where I do a quick search through, so this is all the red-green stuff, and for the set, just to make it a little bit easier for me to make sure I include appropriate cards from the set in the seed for the red-green one. So there we have it. That's another episode of Set Musings. Thanks very much for watching. Bye for now, and I'll catch you in the next episode.